Hello, everyone. This is Nayiri from Low Carb and Fasting. Now, our guest today is a molecular biologist, a brilliant scientific mind, a biotech expert, Gabor Erdosi. Welcome to Low Carb and Fasting.
Thanks, Nayiri, for inviting me.
Gabor, I didn't do you justice when I introduced you. Let me add to that I particularly respect your scientific knowledge. I mean, when I speak to other medical professionals, a lot of them refer to you. They say, oh, that's something I don't know about, but if anyone's going to know about that, it's going to be Gabor. Or just ask him about that particular study. If you're interested in that, he will know that study. So you are very much respected because you're ahead in the game, ahead of everyone else. You read everything out there, you consume everything out there. But I also like your social media presence. You're not biased. You speak the truth, you speak science. And when we don't know something, I love it that you say, okay, well, we don't know this so far, but my speculation is this and that.
Yeah, I think that science is about reading, analyzing, thinking about it, talking about it with other people. And you only know about what you dig into. It's not like anybody is born with knowledge or understanding. Of course, we have different mental capacities, different amounts of time available for reading and digging, and it requires a certain amount of passion above all. So you need that determination to read those papers and dig and search and think about it, and then come to a kind of a conclusion, or at least pick up some thread and follow it through. So yeah, it may require some mindset. It requires definitely a lot of time and a lot of reading and discussion with smart people. Sometimes you need smarter people than you, so that they can give you some hints and directions where to go and find what you miss in your studies. So yeah, I think if I have a good understanding of any topic, that comes from extensive reading. And over the years, I've also learned not to go into topics which I'm not very familiar with, because that's very dangerous. Especially I see, and I also recognize, I mean, on myself, if I do that, and then I feel that, oh, geez, now I feel vulnerable because I said something which I haven't researched properly. And then some people can come around and point it out that that's not really the way it should be interpreted because of this and that and these papers and this science or knowledge available. So yeah, I try to limit my comments to areas now, especially lately, where I did my own research and readings and be a bit more restrained about forming strong opinions. And I tend to also point it out quite quickly if somebody does the opposite. A lot of people, I recognize that they love to phrase strong opinions and they love to write a lot. I'm the type of guy who prefers to read a lot before just going out and telling that this thing is like that and how this works and so on.
Well, interpretation of data is the toughest part of research work, because you can present the same data to
Yes.
different scientists and they see something different, or they see the same thing but from different angles. However, we are going to talk about microbiome, and I know, Gabor, that that's an area you are well familiar with. So and with it being May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, my first question is, and we're recording this in May, my first question to you is, what is the link between our microbiome and our mental health?
Yeah, first of all, I would say I'm really deeply interested in the microbiome and the relationships between host immunity and interactions between food, microbes, and host immunity. But nobody is very knowledgeable, I'm afraid, in this area. This is fairly new, first of all, which not only means that it doesn't mean at all that there is little information. Now the information available has been ballooning for a decade or two, but the methods are still being refined. How you analyze the microbes in certain areas, and I think that we can mostly refer to the gut microbiome, because that's the most heavily researched, and that's where our most of our understanding arises from. But what we know, I think, is still very, very superficial, and we miss a lot of important details also to put together this kind of a puzzle, how these interactions work. I often see that people refer to studies where they do some shotgun sequencing, which provides very high level information or understanding only. So you know what, sometimes, and that's the better case, you know what species inhabit your colon, for example, or you know a small percent of them. But as some studies do more mechanistic research on the interactions, the close interactions between host cells, immune cells, or intestinal cells, and the microbes inhabiting such areas. And it turns out that the really important thing is exactly these interactions. This is a kind of a matrix, and how these microbes operate doesn't only depend on what phylum or species they belong to, but rather what position they take, or what niche they fill in that microenvironment. So I think it's extremely fascinating, but there is a lot of over enthusiasm, or how to phrase it properly, that people go ahead, way ahead of our current proper understanding, and they try to do predictions based on some very limited understanding. So I'm not that much enthusiastic about our knowledge. I'm very enthusiastic about what can come out in the close future, hopefully, from all of this research.
So what do we know so far? So what is the link? How does our gut health impact our brain? What is the mechanistic link there?
Yeah, I think that the very basics are that the microbes in our gut, or any other parts of our body have evolved together with us. So we are kind of a one symbiotic creature, and what's also more or less clear is that they are absolutely required for proper development, for example, of different systems or subsystems in the human body, especially the immune system. And now that the recognition of, for example, chronic diseases of civilization also approach a kind of a perspective that these are also immune diseases of the immune system. The role of the microbiota in training and maintaining a healthy immune system, or in immune responses, has gained a lot of traction. So I think this is the main concept which is coming to recognition by many researchers, that we may not understand a lot of details, even important ones, but the most important thing is that we absolutely rely upon each other with microbes for proper operation of this complex multi-organism, or how should I call, a symbiotic organism. So yeah, regarding the connection between the brain and the gut, it's a very interesting fact that the second largest nervous system in our body is also located in the gut. So we have the largest part of our immune system, and the second, after the brain, the second largest part of the nervous system, and there is a very close interaction. So this connection is more direct than many tend to believe. Many people believe that the connection is limited to these signaling molecules, so that the gut bacteria synthesize some molecules, and it is absorbed from the gut, and then it reaches the brain, and the brain tries to interpret what's happening in the gut. No, the actual interaction is much more direct. There is a huge nervous, the so-called enteric nervous system in the gut, and this is partly specialized to recognize these changes in microbes. And many neural disorders and diseases have been associated with changes in the gut microbiome. However, I think it's important to note, and it's one of the cornerstones how I try to put together information, that the causality can often be the reverse of what's immediately assumed. Sometimes we observe something and inadvertently put a causal relationship between two observations, or two what we like to call facts. So there are two observations, and then we love to say that, okay, one causes the other. And more often than not, it's just the opposite. The other causes the first one. So when people, also scientists, often claim that, okay, you do this and that bad thing in your lifestyle, for example, you eat bad foods, and you don't sleep enough, and then you have this air pollution, and disrupting different endocrine disrupting chemicals, and then it all concentrates on your microbiome, and it changes the composition of your microbiome, and then this starts all the diseases. Perhaps it's true. I'm not sure so far, but it could be the opposite. There is ample evidence to point to a reverse causality, so that these factors could actually influence our immune system, and the immune system reacts with influencing microbial composition, because there is a profound impact. Immune activation has a profound impact on microbial composition. This is also well understood, I think. So we cannot immediately jump on the conclusion that there are these environmental changes, which is of course the major driving force behind all modern diseases of civilization. And these directly cause a microbial disruption, and the microbial disruption then causes all diseases like diabetes and cardiovascular disease and so on.
Okay, so my next question is, so what disrupts the microbiome, or what causes microbiome disruption, as you put it? Surely nutrition plays a big role. I mean, there are environmental factors, but nutrition plays a large role, right?
Yeah, in general, if we are into some theoretical biology, I think we can safely claim that it's new environmental factors, new environmental pressure, which causes the basic problems which were not present in our evolution, in most of our evolution. And of course, like industrial foods, industrial plastics, industrial pollution, I think it's all about industrialization in very general terms. But of course, we can break it down to what problems may food items, or specific food items, or feeding patterns, or meal compositions could cause. And then you can pinpoint, I think, one important factor, which I think at least partly explains the whole low carb and keto movements, is the availability and abundance of refined carbohydrates. So this is fairly new in our evolution. I mean, if you calculate only from 2.5 million of years, and refined carbohydrates were present only in the last, like 2,000-3,000 years for most people, with the advent of agriculture, and then it's just exploded with industrialization and urbanization, when you have these snack products and white flour based and white sugar based food items in grocery stores. That's fairly new. It started in the second half of the 20th century only, and then exploded in the 80s and 90s. I think it's coincides really well, or not coincides, but goes together really well with the obesity epidemic as well.
And also the explosion of a number of chronic diseases.
Yes. Yes, and of course, how much, what role and how much you can attribute to refined carbohydrates is a matter of debate. I have no doubt really that these food items contribute in a big way. But if you like to put together all the pieces, I think in general, chronic stress plays a big role. And chronic stress could come, for example, from disrupted sleep patterns. A lot of people stay up late at night, snack late at night, then get up early in the morning. So too short sleep, disturbed, poor quality sleep. And then we have all these pollutants from the leaking these BPA and whatever chemicals from plastics and from packaging items and from industrial production and a lot of additives, food additives, and these indeed converge upon the microbes, because microbes are the first to kind of meet with the food. With the food, we put it into our mouth. Because already in the small intestines, even in our stomachs, despite the high acidity, there are quite a few microbes hanging around, and the small intestine is especially interesting from this respect, because that is the most metabolically active part of the digestive system. I think it's fairly underappreciated, because the small intestines can do almost everything what the liver can from a metabolic perspective. There is gluconeogenesis. It releases lipoproteins and it can produce glucose. I just mentioned gluconeogenesis, and it produces a lot of important hormones. So it's kind of has very similar metabolic regulatory roles as the liver, or now as for example fat tissues, adipose tissues are recognized. But the small intestines is still a little bit behind, and I've been kind of pushing this forward. If you check my pinned Twitter thread, for instance, it's all about the importance of the small intestines, and it came gradually. I started with when you start researching, I got interested in this in 2013 or something like that. So getting close to 10 years now. And initially you look at huge and important looking organs. You have your brain, so it's definitely some problem with your brain. And then you have the muscles, and they take up most of the glucose after meals, and they burn a lot of fat as well. So muscles must be the initiating and the most important part. Then you go back and you see that but all this fat and glucose are regulated by the liver, released and then stored, and then re-released and so on. And okay, liver is a complex enough organ so that it could be the initiator and the center of all these problems. And then you start understanding by more and more reading that, okay, but the liver deals with what it gets from the fat tissues. So all these lipids that is found in, for example, in fatty liver disease, the majority is coming from adipose tissues. It's not synthesized locally or come from the diet, but it comes from adipose tissues. Then you go up again one step up the ladder, the chain of the purported causality, and then go to adipose tissues and start looking into hundreds of papers on adipose tissues and understand that, oh, it's a hormone producing organ, and it's very complex, and how it expands, it's really difficult. So again, this is a complex enough organ to be responsible for all of the problems. And then you start thinking about that, okay, what's upstream of adipose tissue problem, where the fat is coming from, and why it's coming from the way it does, and these kind of questions. And then you recognize that, okay, the initial interaction between food and human, the human system occurs in the digestive system. So what if the problem is already there? And then you start looking into many papers of digestion, how lipids are being absorbed, and how glucose is absorbed and released and stored and so on in the intestines. And then you recognize that, okay, but there are all these microbes. And these microbes have a say in this. There is a three-way interaction in the digestive system. And then you look even further, because you recognize that this is an interaction mainly between the immune system in the gut and the microbes, and you start realizing that metabolism is influenced by the immune system in an enormous way. And the other way around is also true. Metabolism, systemic metabolism has a huge impact on immune function and how immune cells operate. So you start looking into immunometabolism, which is a new branch of science. And then eventually, after a lot of reading of all this stuff, you start developing a kind of more systemic view, kind of a holistic view that, okay, all these systems are there and how they operate together very dynamically in what happens when you ingest food, what signaling is triggered, and how the immune system participates in this. And I think it's just fascinating, so one cannot stop reading. And I don't really know where my readings lead me in the future, but I'm looking forward to these very much.
Thank you so much for actually making the point that science is certainly not complete, not conclusive, but also it's complex.
Yeah, it's so complex that we cannot even imagine. So I'm often startled a little bit by the confidence some people express that oh, we know it's this way or that way, and this works this way. I mean, let's take a step back and look at what we really know and how it makes sense. Because I think all these readings only make sense if it meets also common sense, and that's often left out, because you with all this information you should be able to explain complex problems by also matching common sense. So it doesn't match basic observations. So we do this, we do that, we behave this, and we change that way. These should be compatible with any hypothesis or theories. If these are not compatible with basic common sense, then just scrap it and start thinking it over and over again. That's my approach. That we also should be able to incorporate common sense into all these sciencey discussions, because some scientists are so deep into their small area of research that they somehow, I feel that they often lose the common sense and the big picture, how it should fit into the big picture, really.